Welcome to Lacrosse Recruiting 101, where the biggest names in lacrosse share their inside views and expertise. Now, your host, Luke Cometti.
Coach Beville, Cortland State men's lacrosse head coach. Thanks for doing the podcast.
You got it, man. Glad to have you down.
Yeah. So before we dive into things here in Cortland, why don't you tell us about the trip you just got back from?
Wow. Yeah, what a trip. Limerick, Ireland, coaching the Haudenosaunee U21 team. Was supposed to be 3 years ago as the U19 team, but with COVID, things got thrown for a twist, and it turned into U21 to make sure that those guys got the opportunity to play that were supposed to play as the 19s. So, but Limerick, Ireland. 7 games in 9 days, high intensity, some incredible teams. The U.S. team was just incredibly talented with Division I, 2-3 year talent on a lot of the high level ACC, Ivy League teams, Big Ten as well. Same thing with Canada, loaded with talent and athletes, and we were lucky enough to get the bronze. We started slow. We were a very young team. No true close defenseman. And when I say that, I'm not kidding you. We had Jake Pizzano from Albany, who was an incredible long stick midfielder who played close defense basically the whole time for us. He got up on the wing and played wing, and then when we got the ball, he'd stay down low. Stone Jacobs, who played at Vermont, who was a midfielder. Julian Freeman, a midfielder at St. John's, we turned into a pole. And a couple other guys that basically, had almost no close defense experience. We did have an outstanding goalie, Jack Van Velkenberg from Fayetteville Manlius, was in the goal for us. He's at Albany as a junior at Albany, and he had an incredible tournament. But what a trip. We got to Cliffs of Moher a little bit. We got to Galway for a day, a little bit of shore action. Obviously, we were in Limerick, which is a fun little town, fun little city, but not a ton of travel, not a ton of extracurriculars. It was all lacrosse over there, and was a great trip.
Yeah, it seems like you guys, figured it out. You were awarded the bronze medal, so congratulations on that. And when they changed it to U21, is that just specifically for this year? Or do you think they'll use that moving forward?
What I heard was, this isn't for sure positive, but I'm hearing it's going to be switched to U20 full time now. So that age is going to be the cutoff, for the next games 4 years from now, and it'll be a U20 tournament. So they eschewed the U19. They thought U21 was probably too much, and I think they settled on U20. I think you can expect to see that for the next games.
When you say U21 was too much, what first thing that came to mind when I heard that is there's probably going to be some crossover between the senior team and the U21 team. So it makes sense that they drop it down to 20 because that's probably right at that age, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think, the pros will come out, and there is going to be a pretty big difference between those guys that are playing in a PLL and in the box, the pro box players that can actually play as well in these international games and these world games. But there's definitely some of those guys on that U21 team that will be men's teams players next year, I believe, in San Diego when the men's teams play. So there will be some crossover, and I think it's the right move. I think you need to have a little bit more separation there. And I think they addressed that, by moving it down one more year to the U20. I think it's a good move.
Yeah. So we're sitting here in Park Center, Cortland, New York, day before people can move on campus or students can move on. I'm sure a lot of the upperclassmen move to their off-campus housing. Are you excited? You've been through this before. How is that process of people coming back onto campus? You got the new guys and new recruits coming in. You got the veterans who know their way around. Talk a little bit about that process here at Cortland, and do you kind of intervene? Do you let it flow? Do you let the guys meet each other? How does that go?
We let it flow a little bit, but we'll have meetings right away. We found that we absolutely have to have a meeting the first day, particularly for the freshmen. The older guys know what's going on. They're off campus. they've been through it for 3 years. It's the freshmen that get here. They don't know all the rules, all the the protocols as far as.
It's not just a big party.
Some of them think it is. Let me tell you, but and there's nothing wrong with having fun. It's very exciting for them. They're away from home. Their parents drop them off, and mom's crying, and dad's throwing a $20 in her pocket, and the boys are saying bye, see you later, bye. They can't wait to get here. All the emails, the phone calls, the texts. Coach, I can't wait. But we have to meet with them, and we won't do the whole team the first weekend, but I'll absolutely meet with all the freshmen Friday. So we're going to have a meeting on Friday, make sure we talk to them about, what you can and can't do. And it's just using your brain. It's just being smart, have fun, get to know people, but use your brains and keep things under control, no matter how excited you are about, running around campus. Most of these guys are here to play lacrosse and to work out too. They're here for a reason. They're here, for that intense athletic experience. And, they can't wait. I mean, they're already, like I said, I'm getting emails and texts, Coach, when can I get in the weight room? When can I get in the weight room? Can we get on the field and shoot? And, that's a huge, a huge part of the reason they came here to have that experience and to have that, opportunity, with the tremendous facilities we have here, to be a part of a program that's, that's going to challenge for a national championship. So we're really excited to have them. The kids are excited to be here. The older guys are excited to get things going again. We had a tough season last year, the beginning of the year. A lot of injuries, incredible amount of injuries last year. We had 7 season-ending injuries during the year, plus 2 or 3 others.
Wow.
I know that, and it just kept happening. I just kept saying it can't keep happening. And, we had some knees, we had some shoulders. We had more shoulders than ever last year. Concussion, broken jaw, so a lot of those situations and just some, some different things that happened during the year. And it kind of held us back early, but I think we won 10 of our last 11 and, had St. Lawrence, to a 1-goal game, in the, I think it was the quarterfinal round or the 16 round it was, and ended up being 15-14, and 7 days before that they had pounded Union, who made it to the finals, against RIT. So we're right there. We were right there at the end of the year, even with a lot of the things that we went through. So I think there was momentum. There's momentum at the end of the year. The guys felt good about things. They felt good about how much better we got. Stuck together. We took it on the chin a bunch of times and got knocked down, but they kept getting back up, and that's how you build some momentum going into the following season, and we can feel it. The older guys can feel it, and I think the younger guys, will feel it too, as we start to prepare, literally, next week.
Yeah, I was just going to say that St. Lawrence loss, that has to be staying with you and the team. It's got to motivate you guys, and preparing for that moment next season really starts here this next week. Probably started this summer with guys training and working out and making sure that they're on par, ready to come in and make an impact. How do you lay out your fall? I talked to a lot of coaches, and a lot of them are about balance. Obviously you got to work hard, you got to prepare yourself, but at the end of the day, it's not season yet. How do you approach the fall, you and your staff, and how do you get the guys ready so you're playing well? I mean, Cortland has been known to play Memorial Day weekend or right up into May. How do you make sure you have the longevity as a team and that you're playing your best lacrosse then?
It's definitely, something you consider as a coach, what's too much, what's not enough. In Division III, it's a little different. We're allowed 16 total days in the fall in which we can practice or compete, and play a game. We're allowed 1 full day of scrimmage. This year we'll be scrimmaging with Hampton-Sydney, a really good team from the ODAC. They're coming up for our fall scrimmage, and OCC will jump in there as well. So we've got 3 teams on October 7th on that Friday night, and that will be basically the conclusion of fall ball, through our 16, total workouts. We'll still lift. We'll still lift 3 days a week, and we'll get those workouts in, and then throw some meetings in. No film. Obviously no scout reports, no film, and we pull back a little bit. But once those 16 days are up, we're hands off. And, that's why we feel like, for our 16 days, for our 16 practices over 4.5 weeks, we can get into it pretty good, and we cover a lot of ground in a short time because of that. From October 10th till they leave for Christmas on December 10th, after they take their finals, we're not allowed to do any mandatory practices, mandatory anything. So we rely on the guys' self-motivation, go get in the weight room. There's weight room times, but we don't run it. They play box on their own, that they pick up teams and they have a 4-week, box lacrosse season they completely do on their own. We have nothing to do with it. And I think that works, that works for us. Like you said, Luke, you try to find that mix, what's too much, what's not enough, in your preparation going into the spring. Then they have the 4 or 5 weeks over Christmas, and when they come back on January 29th, we give them a couple days, and then we're full on. And and that's the D3 model. Division I's completely different. They practice 2 to 3 days a week, an hour at a time. They do individual sessions, during that winter period, and it's just kind of a where do you want to go with it, and of course following NCAA rules, we make sure that we're on top of that as well. But our guys here get after it. They love it. They love being a part of the that experience. Again, it's that athletic experience and the push to play at the end of the year. You want to be playing in May. You want to give yourself a chance, at the end of the season to play on Memorial Day. Yeah,
you talking about kind of the way you approach the fall and you could call it a limitation, I guess, of how often you can practice in Division III. It reminds me, I had Jack Ambrose, who played at Yale, on the podcast, and I don't remember exactly what they had, but they had some restrictions in the Ivy League, and he thought that was, beneficial. He thought that was an advantage for them because it forces guys to, be internally motivated to get better, to prepare for the season. I feel like when you do it yourself, you're less likely to get burned out, right? You're going to know your limits in that sense, and it just prepares for a good spring, and especially kind of postseason and into late spring. But you mentioned here before we hopped on the podcast that you do have a team trip planned, so it's not all weightlifting and lacrosse. Can you talk a little bit about what you guys are doing next week? Absolutely. So we're very fortunate at Cortland to also have a property up on Racket Lake, Hudson Island and Antlers, and cabins, basically a slew of cabins, kayaks, canoes, outdoor activities, the opportunity to do ropes classes, courses, and, hiking, swimming. Basically, we're in the Adirondacks, and the college owns the property, so we're going to take the whole team up. We're going to take, 50 guys up. Should be, 47 players and 3 coaches, approximate, and we're going to go up and basically get up there Friday. Grab some dinner, do some exercises, do some leadership exercises, some history, little Cortland history, intros, making sure the guys get to know each other a little bit. Saturday be, hiking, some more leadership exercises, both outdoor and indoor. Give them a little bit of time. We're going to give them, 4 or 5 hours to themselves as well, get to know each other a little bit and run around the Adirondacks and, do what they want to do. Come back, grab some dinner. Get a few more video presentations and some leadership things again, and then cut them loose, for some bonfire and just discussion, leadership discussion, teamwork discussion, teammate discussion, sharing stories, getting to know each other, just getting to know each other. I think that's just a huge part of it. They will do it here, but, we're going to be contained up there. Cell phones are in a box. You're not going to be on your cell phone. You're not going to be on the internet. You're going to talk to each other. And, we're going to get to know each other in a lot of different ways up there. As just as far as, how many brothers, sisters you got? Where are you from? Where have you been? Talk to me about, what you do for work, when you have a job. All these little things, just a lot of little things to get to know each other a little better. And I think it's going to go a long way, with the bonding, the preseason bonding, as we say. We won't start practice till we get back, so there won't be any real true lacrosse. We're not bringing our sticks up and playing ball. We're going to get to know each other and have some fun up the mountains. So
really looking forward to it. And, I'm hoping it goes well. And obviously something I think we'll be looking at doing every year.
Yeah, so this is your first year doing it.
It is. We've had captains. I've gone up with captains before.
Okay.
One year we did it in the winter, and they've got a really nice wood burning sauna, that we crank up
nice.
there, and we get a chainsaw and cut a big hole in the ice, and do the polar plunge and back into sauna and leadership exercises with captains, and we've done that numerous times. But I haven't taken the whole team up there yet. And really looking forward to it. I know the guys are too. The guys are really pumped up to get up there and get some outdoor time up there.
Yeah, I love it. I think that'll pay off in dividends. Just being able to meet each other, know each other, right? It kind of just already not forces, but gets those relationships, going. So that way, when they're on the field, they're already friends. They know each other. They're teammates, right? And it's just, it's very fortunate that you guys are able to do that here. And, I'm excited to hear how it goes, and I'm sure it'll do a lot for you guys. Switching gears a little, recruiting. Can you give us a rundown of how this summer went for you and the staff, and, what you're looking to do this fall, kind of where you are from a recruiting standpoint, who you're looking at? You're in 24s, 25s, and just talk about, the current state of Cortland lacrosse recruiting.
Sure. Yeah. The things have changed, and they kind of change, it seems, every 3 to 4 years. There was that time period about, 6 years ago where the Division I guys were, maybe even say 8 years ago, where they were committing ninth graders.
Oh, yeah.
It was crazy. And, they kind of put the kibosh on that and said, we're going to stop with these commitments, these verbals this early. And make it just wait a little bit longer, at least till they're juniors, till they start their junior year. But that stopped for a little bit, and it's kind of back again. We're seeing the younger guys full on verbally committing. They don't talk about it, they don't write it down, but they're still making the commitments. We're in a situation where we at this point are still talking to seniors. We've identified, our goal is during the summer is to get out there, be as efficient as we can with, who our clientele is going to be or who's going to come to Cortland. And that's going to be 75 to 80% New York, being a state school. But we'd be crazy not, to be looking all over the country at Philadelphia, at Boston, in Ohio, Florida, Georgia, Virginia, North Carolina, all those places. And then, of course, out west with Dallas and Colorado, and I don't think we're going to get too many Southern California kids to come to Cortland, but we're looking everywhere. The talent is amazing all over the country. When you look at Maryland's roster, you look at the Ivy League teams' rosters, you look at all the top Division III teams' rosters, except for RAT, who has 24 Canadians. They're not coming from anywhere else but Canada. And a couple guys from another area, but it's different for us. Like I said, with mainly New York, and that's still going to be our number one area: Long Island, Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester, Albany, North Country, Binghamton, Section 4. So we are talking to 2024s, which is the junior class, but we're not committing those guys just yet. We're probably up to, at this point, and it's pretty normal at the end of August, we're up to probably 8 to 9, full-on commits for 2023s, which is always about where we are. And then we'll be looking to, over the next month and a half, do a lot of visits, where we get the guys that come in on their visits, and visits are back. We had a 2-year period there. We couldn't do overnight visits with the COVID. So, that was really hard for guys to get in, and it wasn't just us, but to meet players on the team, spend some time with them, spend the night, get to know the area a little bit, and really get to know the players, that are on the team. And that was taken out. So that's back again. So we're really looking forward to having those fall visits set up again. You have to work around football. We recruit double, triple athletes. We love the guys that play multiple sports. Now, there's nothing wrong with playing just lacrosse if that's the way you want to go with things. If you've kind of lost your love for playing football or basketball or hockey or soccer, whatever it is, that's fine. Lift weights, make sure you're getting on a real good weightlifting program, a real good nutrition program, and do what you have to do to continue to work out and prepare yourself, physically, for your season, for those seasons, which will be in the spring. But we really love the guys. I would say that 90% of our roster are at least the 2-sport guys in high school, and many of them are 3-sport guys. And we think that that works really well, for the kind of guy that we want with our program. I think we've been in the top 10 every single year since I've been here in shots taken. We take 50 shots a game. We want more than that even, with the shot clock now. We want to continue to press the cage. And we press out on defense. We like to, get on hands. When any of our man-to-man defenses, we play very little zone. And we just like that kind of pace. And I think that's, where the athletes come into it. When you got guys that just love to churn their legs, love to run, love to be physical and get up and down the field. And, that's how we play here. And those are the kind of guys we recruit.
Yeah, when I was looking at your roster, I noticed that primarily New York. However, Georgia, North Carolina, Connecticut, you have guys from all over as well. When you're on the sideline, watching a team, looking at rosters, are you paying attention to where they're from? Or are you kind of saying, these are the guys we want, okay, half of them are from New York, those are the guys that are more likely to come? But I was even looking at the cost of tuition for an in-state and an out-of-state, obviously Cortland being a state school, it's really not that much more, compared to some of these private schools. It's still very competitive to be able to come to Cortland for someone out of state than going to a small, private school. So I'm sure more and more you're getting interest from that standpoint. But, talk about a little bit how you guys look at players, how you evaluate, how much it goes into if they're from New York and things like that.
Yeah, we're really lucky here, like you said. I mean, we're talking about $26,000 a year for room, board, tuition, and fees for in-state, and out-of-state is only about 10 more. I say only, 36, but our out-of-state students has nothing to do with athletics, are able to get approximately $7,500 as a out-of-state grant, and it's just basically it could be any out of state. It could be Connecticut, like you just said, Philly, Ohio, North Carolina. So, now you're talking about, knocking off 7, so you're already down, you're below 30 again, for even an out of state kid. So, we've got some really, really nice programs, as far as that goes. Again, it has nothing to do with athletics. It's purely based on what, where your residency is. We are going to recruit, like I said, our main group of guys are going to be New York guys every time. And, a lot of those out-of-state kids are going to private schools. It amazes me how a lot of families don't blink at $70,000 a year. And they're a lot of these private schools, Syracuse University, I believe, is probably in that range. And so are a lot of the other private schools throughout New York State and around the country. So, we look at guys from everywhere. We're not going to say no. We'd be crazy to say no. The level of play has increased so greatly for so many different reasons. The club teams that have cropped up all over the country, young guys that have played at the highest level that are moving into those pockets in the Carolinas and in the South and Florida and in the West and all those areas that we mentioned, even Minnesota, I mean, Oregon right now. One of our guys, Billy Gleason, was out there, did a fantastic job with 3D lacrosse in the Oregon area, and some of those high school teams have got really good. So we absolutely reach out, talk to, and recruit, from all over the country. At the end of the day, we're still going to be, 75% New York guys, which is great for me. Suits us just fine, and we're going to continue that, as we go. The Division III level, there are 245 Division III teams, which is pretty amazing. If you think about that, I think there are 75 Division I and 70 Division II. Just lost 3 or 4 of them who went Division I. Lindenwood and Queens, LIU Post, Merrimack, have just made the transition from D2 to D1, so they lost a few, but approximately 140 there and 240 Division III. So, NCAA lacrosse, I mean, you just do the math right there. 140 and 240, that's or 150 and 240, that's 400 teams, so approximate. So it's growing like crazy, and you just got to get out there. You got to be persistent. I think going back to the early question that you asked about what our strategy is and where we've been, between me and my assistant, we probably were at 14 to 16 summer tournaments. And, got the chair out, sat down, for 2 full days and just evaluated kids and just looking for the best possible athletes, best possible students, and the best possible fit for Cortland.
You mentioned that Cortland's brand of lacrosse, taking a lot of shots, getting up and down the field. I assume that's kind of what you're looking for when you're on the sideline of these tournaments. Can you just talk about what really catches your eye? I mean, I imagine speed, things like that, but kind of some of the things maybe not even while they're playing that catch your eye when you're at a tournament like that.
Yeah, I think that's always first. And in any sport, I talked to the football coach. The football coach goes to a camp, a clinic. The first thing he looks at is, who's fast, who's quick, who can explode, who can create separation, and who can close, on defense. I mean, you're looking at that first every time, and those are the guys that catch your eye every time because, they're the ones who are going to dominate in a lacrosse game as well. So that's always one, is that speed, quickness, and ability to really separate, from the pack or from, one of the guys chasing them, picking up a ground ball and just taking off out of the pack and creating that separation, getting up the field. So that's always one, and that's always one in any sport. Same thing with basketball. Same thing with soccer. Same thing with football. Hockey. Who can get up and out and be that explosive and have that speed. Then it comes down to the next things. Who's strong? Who's tough? And then it comes down to who can execute a little bit. And during the summer, there's not as much execution of a game plan. A little tougher to see than if you're watching a high school game. You go to the high school games, you go watch Baldwinsville, you go watch West Jenny, West Hill, and some of the other schools in upstate New York where you're living and the programs, you go to the high school games and you watch the guys, are they good teammates? Are they fulfilling their role? Are they executing the game plan that's put forth by the coaches, whether it be offense, defense, ride, clear, picking up ground balls and moving it right away, not holding on to it, not being selfish, playing the team game and playing to win. Those things come in a little less in the summer because it's summer ball. And so many of these events, they're built for guys to show off a little bit. Unfortunately, now it allows us to see some of the individual level of play, some of the individual skills, some of the individual things that they're doing, but it doesn't show us a true teammate. Is this guy have it in him to move the ball to the wide open guy, knowing that he's not going to, look great. Is he twirling his stick 24 times as he's running down the field and throwing a behind the back shot when he's standing in front of the cage when he can bury it overhand, so he looks good. Going over the head, throwing it over the head check when he's out of position. There is a lot of those little things that we look for. Again, tougher to see in the summer with the showcases. And that's why we love a lot of the team events. When the high schools go, they stay together. One of the things I always ask a kid, I said, when I ask them what they're playing in the summer, I said, are you playing for your neighborhood first? And I use the word neighborhood, instead of just high school team. What do you mean, coach? I said, are you playing for your neighborhood? Are you playing, for your guys? Are you playing with the guys you grew up with and that you're running around with every day, all day, that you went to kindergarten with and you've known your whole life? What does that mean to you, to be loyal to that program first and then the club stuff afterwards? And, that comes in most of the kids, if they're given the opportunity or if their high school coaches put together those 4 or 5 events for them during the summer, they're going to go to those first, and then you can supplement, anything else you want to do with club ball. Unfortunately, a lot of high school guys don't do anything, and the kids just play flat-out club ball, through the whole summer. I think they develop some bad habits sometimes, but it would be wrong for me to say that the club guys are not also in many ways doing a good job, because they are. A lot of these guys are holding these guys accountable, for showing up, for playing a team game, and just being those kind of players for their club teams as well. It doesn't happen all the time, but it certainly does happen sometimes. So, some of the club guys do a really, really good job as far as that goes.
I think you bring up a bunch of excellent points there, especially when it comes to playing with your high school as well. As you said, club, I think, does a lot of great things. I mean, it gives players opportunities. It gives coaches more opportunities to watch players, exposure, opportunities to showcase your talent in a lot of ways. Even individual showcases do that as well. It also gives players an opportunity who maybe don't come from a high school that has anything going on, outside of the regular spring season. You see that when I was down in Austin, Texas, a lot of programs like that. However, they're able to hop on a club team, come to Philly, and then get in front of you, right? And you just wouldn't have that if they tried to stay with their local team. However, you as a coach, and I'm sure you're not the only coach, other coaches have said this too, is they want to see in a little bit of a system. They want to see you with the guys you've played with coaches you've interacted with. I think some clubs do get a lot of practice in, but some, it's hard to get guys there. Sometimes they have practice once a week. Sometimes they just show up with the team. And it's, like I said, it can showcase their talent a little bit, but some player skill sets, thrive in that environment. Some other player skill sets thrive in more of that system environment. And, it'd be nice if a coach can see both. And so I think that's why you're seeing the explosion of these high school events. They're becoming more and more popular, where these high school teams come. They've been in the system for 1, 2, 3 years. They've been working with the coaches for a few years. And that way you can really see, kind of how they buy in, how they play for their brothers, the guys they grew up with, or just guys that they're friends with at home. And it just gives you probably a better idea of how they'll, be once they come to Cortland.
Yeah, we love the guys that are rabid about their hometowns, and about their home teams. And every high school coach doesn't put the time in during the summer and have them play together in the summer, So you have to respect those other opportunities. One of the things that's bothered me over the past couple of years is the amount of money that's being spent, or the amount of money that's being charged, by a lot of the club teams, to participate, and the equipment costs have gone through the roof, and you got the combination of the club teams saying, we want you to, buy this helmet, buy these gloves, buy these arm pads because they fit the color scheme of the club team, and then you got hotels and meals, and it really is a ridiculous amount of money that's being spent, in the summer by a lot of these families, but they feel like they have to do it. They feel like if they're going to get seen, if they're going to get recruited, their club coaches are telling them, you have to do this event, and you have to do this event, and some of these guys play 8 to 10 tournaments in one summer. That's too much, and it's their call, as families, whether they want to pay it. Nobody's forced them to do it. They don't have to do it, but it is being thrown out there. It's that carrot that a lot of these guys put out there and say, if you want to be seen and you want to be recruited, and we're going to get you recruited by Division I schools, which is, ridiculous. It has nothing to do with the club coach. It has to do with the performance, when they're out there playing, and how they're doing. And of course, you have expectations that these guys are going to come through with the film, with filming the games, whether those tournaments do it or whether the club guys make sure that it's being done, which I really think they should be doing with what they're charging the families. They should be providing, those videos, and because the college coaches can't make every single event. We go to some of these things, we watch a kid for a half, and then we move to another field. and then you watch another half. I mean, that's just one half of one game. And because, we feel we got to go to the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one, I don't think we see enough. I reached the point where I sit down for a full game. I don't jump up at halftime and try to go to another field. I watch one full game, as many times as I can, just to make sure I get a good look. It's still not enough. We really rely on the video and on the film, to supplement what we've seen out there. And, that's important to us too. But there's such a wide scope of the different events and the level of play and the highest level and the mid-level and we call them the Lacrosse Summer Mafia, the guys that claim that, we have the 10 best club teams and we're going to play each other every single weekend for 8 weeks. And that used to be just one group of them. Now there's another group of them, and I think we're up to about 3 groups of them that claim they are the premier club programs, throughout the United States. The conglomeration of so many of these guys buying each other out is happening every day too. And college coaches were sitting back and just watching it, and we just try to identify the places to go to be as efficient as we can to find the guys we're looking for.
Kind of switching gears here, right? You're recruiting, you have 7 or 8 guys committed for this 23 class as senior, or 8 or 9, whatever, you said before. When I was looking at your roster, you had, you said about 47 coming in this fall. I counted, I think, over 50. That's pretty large for, especially Division III. I think that's larger than a lot of Division I rosters. What drives you to have such a large roster? Obviously, there's probably a lot of benefits, but, what drives you to have that? And, how does that work out for your players coming in, being one of 50 guys?
Our number's between 47 and 52. And I found that is absolutely the best number. And if you look at all the top programs, the top 20, 25, 30 Division IIIs, you're going to see that's a pretty normal number right there. Division I, same thing. The past couple of years, the rosters have been crazy big because of the COVID and guys getting eligibility back. Division III, they got 2 years back. So you got seniors right now that are still going to have 2 more years, to be able to play. They're not all going to use it. Yeah, they're not. Of course, they're not all going to use it. They're going to, a lot of them are going to do just the 5th year and then finish. But 47 to 52, I think, is our number. There are a couple different reasons. Number one, you'd be amazed, as the season goes, when you go out to practice, and for a team like us that loves to play full field and scrimmage, and, we do a lot of teaching in the full field areas, scrimmage in, stop and play. You look over to the bench, number one, you got, specialty positions. So you have, face-off guys, fogos, and you got goalies, that are very much specialized, and then even some long stick middies maybe, You pick up 2 teams, you get going, and you get some guys that are injured. You get a guy or 2 with class. It's usually, could be anywhere from 2 to 4 guys at class, 3 to 5 guys that are hurt. Maybe a couple of the older guys that you want to hold out, from sprinting up and down the field because you got a game the next day or in 2 days. You're a little leaner than you'd think, even with those numbers. So, and then during the season-ending injury, or a guy quits, or something might happen. A bad decision here and again. It usually happens once a year, maybe twice. Your roster's getting down, and then you're scrimmaging, and you're saying you don't have enough. There's only 6 middies over there, for a 45-minute scrimmage. So I think we found that's a really good number. 55's too many. We've been up into that range. You see some of the higher level D1s or schools that need bodies for enrollment numbers. You see that a lot more in the Midwest with let's say football than you would with a lacrosse program in the East. But each team has their own way of doing things. When I was at Colorado College, I never had more than 32 guys, and we were really, really good at 6-on-6. And man up, man down, because we couldn't play full field. We didn't have enough guys. Yeah. We never had enough guys to really go full field, at the end of practice. So, and do a lot of scrimmaging. But we were excellent at half field execution, on both sides of the ball. So, But you talk to other coaches, they're going to tell you the same thing. That's a really sound number. I know it sounds like a lot, and it may sound like a lot to monitor, and be looking after all those guys all the time. But, if you got 2 or 3 coaches, that's not too many. You get really good at it. You get efficient at it. The expectations are out there. The accountability is out there, both on and off the field. And, we can make it happen, and we can take care of those numbers, very efficiently.
Yeah, I learned coaching in Austin that when you focus on 6v6, and it was because we had a limited roster, we can only field 6v6, you get really good at 6v6, but that's not the game. And nothing teaches, a midfield there to not throw the ball away, like throwing it away and then having to run in the hole, get in, play a bunch of defense to then finally get on offense. You're going to think about, okay, should I, make that pass, right? So it's like a natural way of just improving the full the full field game. And anyone who has the opportunity, I think that it's, rides and clears. I mean, how do you get good at rides and clears if you don't have enough to make 2 full teams? You can't even practice it. You can do skeleton, but guess what? There's nine guys trying to take the ball from you. So that, that's just a great point. And, as we kind of wrap up here, I wanted to ask you a question. You're talking about your time at Colorado College. You've coached at University of Vermont. You're at Cortland now. You've been doing this for years. And from a recruiting standpoint, you find your studs that are going to be studs for you. And most of the time, I'm sure they pan out, not always. But a bulk of your players are going to be guys that you see the potential, you think they can help the team, but it's always somewhat of a gamble. I mean, every coach goes through that, right? And you think, all right, we're going to take somewhat of a chance on this kid. Throughout the years, can you talk about those players that end up being impact players for you and kind of, just how they are as high school players, or maybe what they did when they got to college, and just, how they attack practice, weight room, academics, whatever it is. Can you talk about those players and maybe just something for especially young players now who maybe aren't the studs, but they want to make an impact on their college roster?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's we depend greatly on that, being surprised, being surprised by maybe that guy that, wasn't, the alpha male coming out of high school. He wasn't the biggest, fastest, strongest, or best player, but he wanted to come to Cortland. And this was the best spot, from an academic standpoint, from just a life standpoint, from, where it is, how far from home, how far from family, that comfort zone there, and different reasons why Cortland was a fit. And coming into the program, without the accolades, without the first team all county, second team all county, whatever it might have been, we still get a guy or two that hasn't played lacrosse, till he got to college. So, those scenarios, take place every year and all the time. And like I said, we actually depend on that, of guys that, again, we're not stars. So you're always going to look at that you're always going to look at, you want to try to find the absolute, top dogs that you can from a competitive standpoint, from a physical capability standpoint. We talked about the speed, the quickness, those different things, the ability to separate and close, as defenders, footwork, strength levels, toughness, and all those things come in. But it's also that guy who, when he got here, weighed 155 and got knocked around and got pushed around and couldn't turn the corner because the 200-pound defensemen were jacking him up and pushing him out of the way and maybe dropping a pass and didn't, but just never gave up and kept fighting and kept getting stronger. Every year kept coming back better. Played as much summer league as he could. Just increased himself, his athletic, not only physically athletic acumen, but, the mental part of the game as well. And just kept working. We get a lot of guys like that, that peak as juniors. and they stick with it. Some of them fade off. Some of the guys after a year, they may say, I can't, I'm not going to do this because here comes another class of freshmen that are, bigger, stronger, and faster. But we get those guys who are just dogged, determined. They want to contribute. They want to be a part of things. Sometimes they don't play till they're seniors. We've had that plenty of times too, where, you see the great programs. You say, you don't rebuild, you reload. And that's because you get guys that keep coming up through the system. They know what to do, the minute they get here, both on and off the field. They're schooled in every bit of the process, from the beginning of fall ball to the end of the spring. They've seen guys, that are a year or two above them that came in the same scenarios. They weren't the stars. And they didn't play at all for 2 years, but they played a lot as juniors and seniors or even just as a senior. So critical. And any coach will tell you that. You see it, you see that any program at any level, in any sport, how important that is in so many different ways. And when other guys on the team see that, how important it is and what it means to them, to watch that take place. And as coaches, there's nothing like it. It's one of the greatest things that we experience as coaches is watching the growth, of these guys as they come through. We always say that, our number one job, at least I do, is the preparation of these guys. And after 4 years, when they walk out that door, sitting right over there in my office, they're ready to take the world on. They're ready, and both on and off the field. But when they walk out of here, they're walking tall, they're confident. They've gone through this program, and we've used lacrosse as a way to help prepare them to be men. And, I think we've done a good job here. Our guys get out of here, and they're getting hired right away in any of our majors, and we have basically everything. We've gotten guys through every imaginable major here, and they're all doing really well. And, they're walking out with with their heads held high, their chest sticking out, and a big smile on their face. So, that's our number one job as coaches. And, lacrosse is basically, it's been my life. It's been everything for me to help these guys achieve those goals and become the men that they are.
Very well said, Coach. And I think that's a great place to wrap up. Appreciate you taking the time to do this, having me down to campus here. And obviously, best of luck this fall and into the spring 2023 season.
Thanks, Luke. Really appreciate you coming down.
Thanks for listening to Lacrosse Recruiting 101. Catch us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Have a question for Luke? Email them to questions@lacrosserecruiting101.com.